Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the next session of this event, which is talking about implementation of the tech standards for the AA ecosystem. I'm just going to run you all through two quick slides to make you understand, what I am talking about. Just a moment. Yes. So, as when we went through Abhishek and Shalini's presentation, we realized we went through a slide which shows how data is, so how the user of data is going to request the customer for the data, and then the consent manager, which is the account aggregator itself, is going to send that request to the provider, the custodian of the data for the customer, that is maybe the bank account or the investment account, basis the consent of the customer, and how once they get the encrypted data, they are going to give it back to the user of the data. So this entire flow, there are three data handling entities. All these three data handling entities have to be regulated and registered by one of the four mentioned regulators in the account aggregator ecosystem. So these are the three regulated entities. A very important wheel in this entire cycle is the technology service providers. The technology service providers are the only unregulated entity in this entire ecosystem. How do they help? Basically, technology service providers are tech companies that are in this ecosystem in either or all of the three capacities. One is as AA data standard providers. AA data standard providers are those tech companies that help to develop the pipes, the bridges, the APIs that send the request for the data, and the APIs that give the data back. So we call them in our parlance as TSPs that provide AA data standards. The As you already know, the guidelines or the directions to provide, or rather the guidelines will be a technically correct term, is provided by Rebit, the IT arm of RBI. However, the technical service providers help us create these APIs. So these are called as the AA data standard TSPs. The other capacity in which TSPs become a part of the ecosystem is by providing data analytics. So there are a number of TSPs that provide their service tools that work on top of the data that reaches the users to provide insights, underwriting models, various other softwares which help in the decision making for users of the data. And the third category of technology service providers are the user experience technology service providers. They'll typically create front end for the customer to go through the account aggregator journey. Today, as part of this event and as a step one to the awareness session that we had in the last 40 minutes, we would like to present to you one of the service providers who will show you how AA data standards can be created for this ecosystem. Now, these are some of the logos of TSPs that are available in the ecosystem to create AA data standards. This information is also available on our website. I will put the link in the message section. In all, there are about 17 organizations that are there providing AA data standards. Uh, uh, any entity that wishes to get onto the tech development path can get in touch with one of them. All their contacts are available on our website. One amongst the 17 is going to present to you today on what have they done in the ecosystem so far and how is it that you can be a part of it. So the entity that's going to present is Origraph. It's also called as Instorein Technology. I will stop sharing my screen now. And I will get onto stage the founder of Origraph, who will run us through the presentation. Subbu, you will have to put on your yes. So please help me welcome Subbu Joyce. Subramanyam Joyce is the first time I've come to know his full name. So he is the founder of Origraph.io, also technically called as Instore Technologies. Instorein Technologies, and they are one of the technology service providers for AA data standards. Subbu has a vast experience, completely a techie, is what I believe now, and he has over nearly 30 years of experience in the tech domain. There is a He's given me quite a technical introduction of his, which I would suggest you all go through our speaker list and see, some get some background about Subbu. So, Subbu, without taking any further time, I'm hiding myself. You can share your screen and carry on with the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks for thanks for that introduction, Rishi, and greetings to everyone. Without much ado, I'll get started with the presentation so that we can move ahead. Just briefly about Origraph. Origraph is a DLT protocol and platform built completely in India. You can call it Atmanirbhar Bharat. We are the first and only blockchain which has been ground up built out of India, essentially to overcome all the limitations of blockchain, the scalability issues, the latency issues, and throughput issues, and so on and so forth. Now, what we have done as a focus on this is that given that our protocol is very much aligned to triple entry accounting, we have gone ahead and used it for a lot of fintech use cases, and primarily we are focusing on open banking, open commerce, and smart legal contracting and federated eKYCs. In that connection, I will go directly into the open banking story. So since most of you are from finance background, you will understand this better. Currently, if you look at any lending, business like most of you are in, I guess almost all of you are in, is that banking data is currently siloed, centralized in banks, and with their customer data systems. There's very limited data sharing, if at all there is any. If at all, it could be through a credit rating agency and so on and so forth, which rates a consumer based on his credit history, right? Which gives very little visibility about the customer's cash flow after the disbursement of a loan and so on and so forth. And therefore, what happens is, since you do not have visibility to the customer's cash flow, you're not able to predict or prevent NPAs in future. I guess one of the gentlemen just alluded to that matter a few minutes ago, right? What we are doing in open banking, I'll first cover open banking and come to account aggregator. So what are the principles in open banking? You need real-time data sharing, including statements or transactional data of consumers. Real-time initiation of payments that allows other organization to initiate payment for you. Information of products and services that allow the consumer to compare and therefore tailor what his financial services need to be, and therefore personalize it, and then provide immutable and irrepudiable consumer consent mandatory, which is mandatory for sharing any consumer data. This is, I think, there is almost a legislation passed in about 17 countries pertaining to this particular aspect, where open banking is now allowed, including India. Right? Because of all these factors, we're able to deliver personalized fintech products and services. And most importantly, I think in a scenario where we're talking about India, we're talking about financial inclusion based on cash flow and net worth based rating rather than just credit history. And this is the one that will drive the informal economy that we have in this country. As per 2018 numbers from IMF, 81% of the population is in the informal economy, which maybe, if you count in terms of, you convert it into numbers, we're talking about 1 billion people in this country are still in the informal economy, who may not be eligible for bank credit or formal credit systems or credit rating systems. That leaves a very large population out of the financial inclusion that economy growing at our rate should have. And it also limits banks and financial institutions customer base hugely. And given that situation, what are the instruments and tools that we need to have? Origraph as a platform has devised its own smart contracts, which are based on Ricardian contracts, Ricardian contracts are essentially automation of existing legal contracts. We're not trying to do Ethereum smart contracts here. For those of you who may be familiar with blockchain, so what we are doing here is the way we are working on active contracts, as we call it, is that you upload your existing legal contract. You may have a lending, you may have a contract for your housing loan and things like that. You upload your existing legal contract. We extract the text and the parameters in that. You can tag the parameters. You can tag the text part of it, and then you do the data automation. What we are working on here is directly integrate through the account aggregator platform that we have, directly integrate the borrower and the lender data into the smart contract. For example, if there's a housing finance company, they can embed, they can enter their GST number, which will go directly to the GST server, fetch the data from there and embed it in the smart contract. Likewise, say get the PAN number, and that becomes the first party, right? In the case of second party, you may have a consumer say, I'm borrowing a housing loan and things like that. I will drop my Aadhaar number, I will drop my PAN number, and maybe get that validated directly from UIADA server and the Tracer server, embed that into the smart contract. The third part will be now to determine which is the property which gets which I'm mortgaging, or on which I'm taking a loan. I would drop in Karnataka. We have the PID system where a property identification number is there, and you enter that. We can integrate with the revenue department, fetch that data, embed it in the smart contract, which means you can eliminate data identity fraud. You can eliminate a whole lot of other frauds that can happen in borrowing, in lending businesses, and have verified and validated data in the whole system, right? So you can eliminate a lot of fraud just out of these measures. You're verified. You're making sure that the person who's signing the contract is the person who's actually, whose name is there in the system, right? So once this is done, for example, the bank enters its part of it, then it shares that smart contract with the borrower. There may be one or more borrowers. You can therefore collaborate and have this other subscribers of the smart contract, the borrower, the guarantor, and so on and so forth, and enter their identity through validated data from UIDI or PAN or what have you. And once that is done, all the subscribers of the smart contract digitally sign it, and it gets compiled it, and then gets once we are at that point of time, you can then do the programming. The third part of a Guardian contract is programming, which is entering the events, programming the events and triggers. In this case, it could be, for example, you would say 5th of every month, you have the lender the borrower has to pay the EMI per every month. So the bank account details of the borrower and the lender are also embedded in the smart contract, which can, once we have the APIs available from banks or financial institutions, with ample security, with all the provisions of security and taken care over there, because we'll have to provide multi-factor authentication in this case any which way. The EMI can be triggered directly from the borrower's account to the lender's account. And this we are doing it as an NFT, which means that the transaction gets auto-reconciled when it is executed. Now, for example, on some days there may be an exception where instead of 5th, the borrower is paying on 6th or 7th. You can have the exception part of the contract also included in the smart contract to say per day there is a penalty of say whatever percentage, or say 50 rupees or whatever, for which a separate voucher also is auto generated, and that is also getting reconciled at both ends of the system, at both the borrower as well as the lender end of the system, which means that not only will the protocol and the platform ensure execution of the smart contract, but also ensure management of the exceptions as the case may be. And once all the smart contract is compiled and deployed, all you have to do is ensure that the auto execution of the contracts happen. Any exceptions, programmed exceptions, are handled by the system itself. And if there is any compliance issue, it gets auto reported. So you would not have to do additional audits or detailed audits that you end up doing. The cost of that, the reconciliation of that, or maybe even landing up in suspense accounts. One of the beauties of Origraph's protocol has been and we have already done a few POCs with banks, and we're working now on other use cases outside the country, is that we've been able to give real-time reconciliation, real-time settlement, real-time audit, and real-time track and trace across value chains. So that entire system is something that we have built as active contracts on top of Origraph. Moving on, what is Origraph's open banking? Here is what we provide. Let us say there is a financial information request or a financial information user, as is the nomenclature from Sahmati, right? The financial information user makes a request for the user's financial information through Origraph's DLT. Now, at this point of time, what we have done is that every piece of data that is requested is treated as a subcontract. Like, for example, getting Aadhaar information is a subcontract, getting the PAN information, PAN data is a subcontract, getting a bank statement is a subcontract, and so on and so forth. So that would go to the respective information providers. So KYC data can be multiple subcontracts. Existing banks, say savings account statements is another subcontract. If you want to then verify the older mortgages or credit cards or integrate it even with, say, Experian or CIBIL, or his insurance and other instruments that he may have had, each of them will go in as a subcontract. And once that is done, all these subcontracts are tokenized, so data is private, data is secure. And from when it flows back to the account aggregator, the user has to provide consent, which is a key part of the smart contract and of any open banking system, including Sahmati, that the user consent is critical. Once user provides the consent, then only the information goes to the financial information requester as a part of the smart contract. It is a tokenized information. It can only be opened by that financial information requester. It cannot be accessed by anyone else. So this is the basic Origraph open banking platform, which we are working for both in Sahmati, both for Sahmati in India as a TSP, but we are also working outside the country. Some of the highlights of our system is that it is the only DLT-based account aggregator system so far in the world, and we are the only ones who have implemented it. And we have included active contracts to ensure the consent and the contract automation is taken care. Data automation is completed over here as a part of the entire system. So very little additional effort would be required. Only in case you want to integrate it with your existing banking systems, then we provide APIs to integrate it over there at both FIP and FIU ends. We are also we're also doing integration with Europe and North America. We have signed up with Stanchart Bank for their Access Innovation Labs for their open banking, with Bank AI in Europe. Besides that, also with Kodak.io in North America. So we should within this year be supporting over, I think now 15,000 banks and data sources, sovereign identities, and so on and so forth in the near future. What are the benefits that you get out of this? We are able to reduce cost of customer verification to under rupees 500 or less than $10 in the US and Europe. The processing time is to be reduced to under 15 minutes, right? And this would mean that your cost of lending can come down significantly from your existing costs, which I think one gentleman in the previous session talked about financial inclusion, and that is exactly our objective. We are talking about billion people coming into financial inclusion because of this, right? What we're able to increase is customer loyalty with proactive and personalized services. You can therefore, bring in systems since the account aggregator system provides for monitoring of customer account information with, of course, necessary privacy controls. Like, for example, we can have filters, which will mean that only, say, credit in the first month are reported and nothing else. Or you want, in case of businesses, you can have designated accounts or designated transactions being monitored, things like that. Okay, so you can do a lot of personalization over there. And more importantly, our objective is to, in the case of India, is to reach out to those in the informal economy that I mentioned earlier. So one of the use cases that we're working on is micro lending and small microfinance loans, where let us say you have a lady who goes to the mandi at 5 a.m. in the morning, and she She buys her vegetables that she sells during the day. Today, I'd say she buys 3,000 rupees worth of vegetables. She doesn't have cash in hand. She borrows about say 3,000 rupees from a money lender in the mandi at 10% per day. This is happening, and I'm sure all of you are aware. So. And then she returns 3,300 at the end of the day, which means 360% interest per annum. Our objective is once we are going live with this, some of the use cases we're working on, especially with the ONDC type of projects that we're working on, is to bring that down to a point where in under 15 minutes, this lady can send an SMS even on a feature phone that can be serviced, which goes to a microfinance company. They can request for her KYC, Aadhaar, and PAN. She presses one on her phone. Their data goes directly from Aadhaar server to the microfinance company. PAN data goes likewise. They request her for bank statement. What has happened? Possibly the only positive collateral of COVID has been that today every street vendor today has mobile number which is linked to his or her bank account is linked to her KYC, right? So the microfinance company can request for a bank statement. She presses one. The bank statement can go directly from the bank to the microfinance company, and they can make a decision on her cash flow. Based on her cash flow, they can decide to say lend her 5,000 rupees or revolving credit of 10,000 rupees or what have you, and that money can be deposited into her account in less than 15 minutes. And that is the objective that we are trying to work towards, right? That's where I think the financial inclusion path should go. So we're trying to make these solutions work in India and in parts of Africa, especially South Africa. So essentially, financial institutions should be able to monitor consumer cash flow to take predictive actions or preventive actions and therefore reduce NPS. So before, say, if someone loses a job today, you possibly are not able to know about it for at least 3 to 6 months until he starts defaulting, right? So in this case, financial institutions can, the moment they see that a person's salary hasn't come in or his cash flow is dipped, you could take a corrective action immediately and prevent an NPA from happening, rather than going into post-fact active actions thereon, right? So the idea is to drive financial inclusion in informal economies based on cash flow and net worth. What we may not know, and I did some survey on this and came back, is that many of these vegetable vendor ladies that we have seen, say even the pani puri wala, the auto rickshaw wala, the tender coconut, the guy who sells tender coconuts, their cash flows are on, but in addition to that, they are putting a 5,000 rupees chit somewhere. This lady has got about half a kg of gold, which is her inheritance or came with her dowry, so on and so forth. So when we don't actually get a true picture of their credit rating or net worth just using a bank repayment history or credit history based systems. This can actually change all that, right? We have already done integration with about 400 APIs, include KYC, GST, few of the Indian banks. We are doing more outside the country as far as bank integration, but sovereign KYC data is available in India, such as especially for Kisan credit card, things like that. We have done a lot of work there. A lot of data is available, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel all over. And as far as FIP and FIU go, we offer API integration with the banks and financial institutions. So obviously, you'll have your security systems. We offer that as an option, and you can be rest assured that no data goes out. Only whatever data is used on Origraph platform is tokenized data and is secured by your digital signature, and only the party with whom you have signed the data, the PKI-based security, on the other side, only they will be able to access, no one else, right? And as far as user privacy and confidentiality goes, each user has a dedicated node, and the user controls all the data and manages the data and decides with whom the user wants to share the data. Any questions thus far? Okay, I'll just move quickly We are working on the ONDC platform as well. So where again here what we have done is we are integrating buyers who can come to any open commerce marketplace. This we are doing not just India but again outside the country, where open commerce marketplaces can come in and they integrate with Origraph to do the trade finance or bill discounting type of use cases, uh, essentially using the same open banking concepts. And here we make it go further with open commerce, where the merchant onboarding is also done on Origraph. So their KYC is taken care, their digital assets is on Origraph, and their general ledger, so to say, is on Origraph. So to provide for real-time reconciliation across the marketplace and across multiple buyers around the world. The additional services that we provide, I just mentioned on this, is that the active contracts for contract automation. This we are finding a lot of uptake in banking and insurance outside the country and in open commerce. So, onboarding a merchant today in some parts of the world is a hectic task, including India, where you have to do the KYC verification and so on and so forth. We are able to, we will be able to deliver this in about less than 15 minutes, which means, especially projects like ONDC, where we're talking about millions of merchants coming on board and their KYC being tracked and their transactions being funded through some sort of trade finance. Yes, we have a solution that can go right now. So our business model is essentially it's a SaaS model. So we charge a subscription and a transaction fee. I'll leave it open now for questions. Ruchi?
Yes. Okay, any questions for Subbu? Subbu, you can stop sharing your screen. Uh, Subbu, you might want to type your email ID or direct contact in the messages section. So if there is anybody who wishes to get in touch with them, please feel free to connect. And I have already listed the website links, so you can have a look over there as well. So thank you, Subbu, for your time so much, and for taking so for taking everybody. So there is a question. Just a moment. Deepak is asking. Uh,
Yeah, hi. So again, my questions. As an account aggregator, so you store the data, or you are just intermediary who receives a request and then request for the data from the financial institutions and passes it on.
So we don't store any raw data. Is that question directed to me,
no,
Deepak?
Yes.
Sorry.
yeah, Subbu, sorry. Let me take that forward. Deepak, first thing, Origraph is not an account aggregator. They are a technology service provider. There are account aggregators who are in the market. They are NBFC AA licensed account aggregators. Account aggregators are data blind. They do not look at the data of the customer. That is, in fact, that is very clearly mentioned in the FAQ section of our website. Have a look at that, where the FAQ section will detail out some information on account aggregators and how do they port data from one entity to the other. So basically, the data that account aggregators move from providers to the users is encrypted. They do not decrypt it at their end. It gets decrypted at the user's end. And so I would request you to go through the FAQ section and write to us if you need to know more. But from a technology point of view, Autograph is a technology service provider. They are not an account aggregator. Account aggregators are licensed entities licensed by RBI under the category NBFC AA. I hope that
Understood.
answers your question.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Understood.
thank you. So I guess that brings us to the end of the session. Thank you so much, Subbu, for helping everybody go through and understand how is it that they can be a part of the ecosystem and providing some details on the services that you all are providing to the ecosystem. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. And I've dropped my email and mobile number. Anyone wishes to contact me, we are here to.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Uh,
Ritik.
So with that, we come to the end of our awareness session. I have posted a lot of links of our website and our email ID, etc. So please feel free to get in touch. We've also been sending invitations to y'all through the day. So that also has my direct number and email ID. Please feel free to get in touch with us. We can have a one-to-one session as and when y'all decide to come onto the ecosystem. And of course, the nudges that quickly more than lately. So thank you very much and have a very good weekend, everybody. Thank you.